Testing, 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 testing. JB here, JB here. Hope everybody's doing outstanding. May 23rd, 2023. Don't think I'll be on too long here. Markets right at the lows. Just peeled back from 418 on the SPY, and that was at pretty much the noon hour. And now we're down here about 416 or so. But I haven't been on in a week or two. Just want to talk about a couple things. Some individual names. Talk about the Fed minutes, which will be out at 2 o'clock. PCE comes out on Friday, and then earnings season. So first, let me talk about TERN, TERN Pharmaceuticals. It's a name I've never mentioned before on the watch list or talked about on audio, but it fits this niche that's going on right now with VKTX. You have MDGL, so this NASH, obesity drug, diabetes, whole umbrella of I guess this market, which is under an umbrella of diabetes, weight loss, and NASH. There's these companies that all fit this narrative, and TERN is another one of those names that probably is flying under the radar. So if you take a look at VKTX, I think I got it when it was $9 or so, right at the end of 2022, and I got it more on Madrigal, MDGL's positive data, which they're either going to get bought out or it's going to be a $500 stock in the coming months. So that's the premise behind adding VKTX. And then we had this wild card, this bonus, and here's the market hitting lows here. So it's tough to talk while things are peeling back. But so VKTX, similar story. They have their drug profile is similar, and then they have this metabolic diabetes drug that had some phenomenal phase 2 data. And phase 2, so it's still way out there, a couple of years. You already have companies out there with their diabetes drugs that are disguised. I guess they're disguised as diabetes drugs, but really people use them for weight loss. NVO, LLY. Well, LLY should be approved shortly. So here's TERN, another one of those names that right under that umbrella, possible oral solution. I think it's a daily dose for, I don't know if it's for NASH or for their diabetes drug, but either way, I think there's an opportunity here. $700 million market cap, $290 million in cash. They have a runway, so they don't have to do an offering or raise cash at least through 2026. And then you look, it could be a good pocket acquisition for some of these folks that want to get into that weight loss hype that's going on with all these weight loss drugs. So I think it's a great story. I think it trades mid-teens to 20s in the coming weeks and months. Not going to add any more to what I've got yesterday and today, but great story. So hopefully you can understand why I got those calls yesterday and today. So that's that. So that's TERN. VKTX, not going to say too much here. Stock hit all-time highs. What time did it hit it at? 10:30. Pulled back $1. It's one of those, it's going to probably churn here, and then eventually it's going to be 30, 35, possibly 40. Not really much in the way of catalyst for VKTX in the coming months. The only catalyst that might push it higher will be some kind of acquisition in the space. MDGL gets acquired for 35, 40% premium. VKTX will be up, it's probably a similar amount or somewhat similar amount in the next day, just based in sympathy. So that's kind of VKTX. Roku, I posted yesterday, I'm a glutton for punishment. I still look at Roku, and I think with Netflix coming out with their ad tier, well, they didn't come out with their ad tier. There was a post or a report that said they have 5 million subscribers to their ad tier service. So I guess that's above expectations. The stock soared. You would think if there's a company that is the ad tier pioneer, it would be Roku. Roku, I wouldn't say they invented the ad tier platform for streaming, but they were probably the first to really monetize it. They had their Roku channel a couple of years ago. It was the first free channel where you could watch movies that you would normally have to pay, $9.99 or rent them on Amazon Prime or what have you. Now you can watch it for free. You have to watch the commercials. So if you take a look at what's going on they talked about, I guess YouTube TV or YouTube is going to try and undercut some of these other services. So you have Peacock Plus, HBO Max, Apple Plus, Netflix, Amazon Prime. The list goes on and on. You have all these a la carte services, and Amazon's going to try to undercut the pricing on some of those to help get subscribers. I think at some point people got to look at Roku and say, why is Roku not? How has it not been acquired? Um, Back when I used to like Roku, it was a hardware company, so they sold their stick or their device, and then they hoped to get some revenues on the back end via advertising. And I think at one point when I first started looking, it was $18 or $20, and their platform revenue was 10 or 15%, and their hardware revenue was 80 or 75 or 80% of their revenues. Now it's completely switched, and now it's 85% of their revenues is just advertising, and the other 15% is hardware. But then you see people come out with these bearish spins on Roku and say, "Wow, their hardware revenue is down," but it's only 15% of their revenue now. And not only that, typically they're giving the hardware away so they can monetize the back end. So anyway, it just boggles my mind that it's still down here, and at some point I think it's going to go on some kind of 20 or 25% run. Lucky enough, it's had a nice move today and on Monday. Lock some of my calls in. I'm not sure I'm going to add anything here yet. If it does get some strength into the close, maybe I'll look to get further out strikes past June 2nd. But love the story. People, it's funny how it works. The stock was $20. Everybody hated it. It goes up to, I think it hit 400. I have to go look exactly what price it hit. And then once it's in like the 200s, 300s, people are like, wow, Roku's great. It's it's going to $1,000. Citron Research came out and says that Netflix was going to acquire them, all at the highs. Yeah, went to $500, and now it's sitting here at 57, and everybody hates it and thinks it's garbage. Maybe I got it wrong, but I don't. I'll continue to look for opportunities to play for upside. So that's Roku, and now we're at 415 on a SPY. Come on, just hold here. What are the other ones? Roku. Oh, BlackRock. So one of those names I think was kind of thrown out. They say the baby with the bathwater thrown out with in sympathy with other names in the banking sector. I mean, BlackRock, I think, regardless of what happens with these bank runs, people are still investing in ETFs. They're still managing funds. They still draw fees off of these ETFs. So I don't see how BlackRock should have sold off with the rest of the banking sector. Just that people probably, they have ETFs in the banking sector, and BlackRock's probably one of them that's included in that basket. But I think that's a great name to play for upside at some point. Got the calls last week. Thought maybe he was going to have some kind of follow through into the 680s, 690s, possibly over 700. Looked good right at the afternoon yesterday. 675 pulled back into the close, and then sure enough, it's selling off with the rest of the stocks today. So going to need about a 3-4% move tomorrow, or even 2% tomorrow, 2%. It's going to need a big move. So we'll have to see how this all plays out. But it's one of those names, speculative calls. I'm not going to look to salvage the position because maybe it gets an upgrade tomorrow. But like the name, eventually I think it's going to trade back over $700. So that's BlackRock. What else I have on the list? Oh, Ulta reports earnings on Thursday. A crazy move from, let's see when it hit the highs. I think at the start of May it was, let's see if I pull it up. Start of May it's 550, and here it is at 470.76. So $75 pull from pretty much all-time highs on no catalyst really. And you've had some decent earnings from retailers. And one of the names you would look at if you're long or short, Ulta would be Target. So there's a lot of store within store concepts with Ulta and Target. And then you have Elf. Elf sold off a little bit, but holding here at the 50-day moving average. I think there's, I thought at start of the week there'd be an opportunity. I'm not going to sit here and try and catch a falling knife, but maybe into the end of the day, if it starts to get a bid, goes red to green, maybe tomorrow I'll look to get some calls to play into earnings. But I'm trying to think. Let's see here. I don't even know their buyback situation. What does it say? Yeah, some positive analyst commentary. And I think over the last month or so, there's been some upgrades on a name, and it just really couldn't get going. So if they have a nice quarter beat and raise, I think it heads into the low to mid 500s. So I might look for some calls to play. For premium build, I won't hold calls into earnings unless I can lock some in to cover costs and ride some freebies. Wingstop, another name. I talked about Wingstop for a while. It was one of my top 5 stocks many years ago. I think it was 60 or 70 bucks at the time. Franchise model, so very hard to compare it apples to apples with other casual dining chains like CMG. But if the situation going on with inflation is in the rearview mirror, chicken was a huge cost concern for Wing. Obviously, that's their main component or main ingredient for their menu. But they continued to hold the higher prices. They raised prices. Now inflation goes away, costs come down, and now it's just going to do very well for the margins. Stock did a huge earnings report. I think it was 196 or so, went up to 225 earnings day. Next day went up to 225 or so, sold off, and it's kind of churning here. I think at some point it's one of those names. I think it's going to start to go and probably head to all-time highs and 250 or so in the coming weeks. So a name I always have on the watch list. I like this one for higher. I know people look at it and think it's what's the moat around their business? They just sell wings, but they do it very well. They've added menu items, including their chicken sandwiches. Who knows if that's going to compete with Popeye or Chick-fil-A? But if all that does is add revenue per transaction. So if folks just came in for wings and said, "Oh, I'm going to get a chicken sandwich now," it's just going to add on to the ticket, and then if their margins are higher based on the cost going down for chicken, I think it just heads higher. So that's Wingstop. Not really going to talk too much about Edit. The story in Edit. They've had some huge missteps in regards to their management team and execution. Company finally looks to reverse the trend, appoints a veteran in the biotech space. Stock, I thought it was going to break out today. It looked like it was going to, it's still in the green. 1028 it hit at about 12 o'clock, but I think at some point it's in the mid-teens. They have so many partnerships with some of these huge biotech companies that I would think at some point someone's going to just say, let's just buy them out, but that has not happened. Oh, well, that's Zyme. Zyme, similar price right now, $9.25. At some point, I think that heads much higher. I'm trying to think of some of the other things. Interesting, yesterday, if you were trading back in 2013, I can remember like it was yesterday, had tons of call positions on, and then all of a sudden there's a report out that there was an attack on the White House, Obama got injured or whatever, and the market just tanked. And then, 30 minutes later, reports came out this is a joke, a hoax. Someone hacked the Twitter feed from AP. I think it was AP, the AP press. And then markets recouped their losses. Similar thing happened yesterday with the report there was an explosion near the Pentagon. Just goes to show you how quick information and news flows. And then you have all these algorithms and HFTs just looking for data and trying to get ahead of some of the moves. So it kind of exacerbates those news events where normally maybe there would be a little sell-off. Now it's a huge sell-off because it's a snowball effect. Well, funny how, I think I put it on the watch list this morning. It seems like just yesterday. I mean, it's scary stuff. It stinks because if you're an option trader, the biggest thing you have going for you is the premium in your call or put position, and a move like that just destroys it. So, and there's no consequences for the folks who come out with those false reports or the I'm trying to think what was it, the fat finger trade in Europe, that person had some consequences, caused the flash crash. But outside of that, interesting stuff. Other names, MDGL, I would love to get some calls, but they're insanely expensive. So the Maze and MDGL didn't have weekly options until just recently. But you take a look, it's trading at nearly $290, and you go into June's, and the June 350s are $4 by $6. So that's tough to find a decent risk reward unless you think there's a buyout, and the buyout's substantially above that. Well, I mean, you just need a buyout at 360, right? But then is that worth the risk of holding those for the possibility of they expire worthless to play for a buyout within the next couple weeks for 360. I don't know. So tough to trade that one. Similarly, if you want to look all the way into October, the premiums on the October strikes are $135. So the stock's trading at 289. So in October, the option, the at the money straddle price is implying a $135 move, which is insane. so so tough to trade. So I think that's why I look at the outliers like TERN and VKTX, and I think there's other ones. Let's see what the other Nash ones are. AKRO. Don't know much about that one. So at some point I'll do some DD on that one. I think that's it, folks. What do we have here? UPB was posting about it the last couple of days. You have these folks, and all they do is move on to the next bearish headwind, like the next headwind for markets. So of course you had the inflation, you have, and well now you have the debt ceiling. We have geopolitical concerns with Ukraine. There's always the back story of China and Taiwan. Who knows what's going on with that? And then now it's the breadth, right? So when you have the S&P 500 and you have all these different stocks, and 4 or 5 of them make up the majority of the gains, people paint that as a negative. But what happens if the other 493 were the majority of gains and the other 3 were not performing? It'd be the same story. They said, well, the big cap stocks are struggling, but the small caps are doing well. It's funny. You can paint the picture any way to create a rationale around what the market's going to do or what you want it to do. But for now, I think 420 this coming week. If the Fed minutes come in somewhat dovish, PCE numbers on Friday come somewhat in line, I think the SPY is going to head to 420 and close above that into the holiday weekend. But who knows? All right, folks, that's about it. Thanks for listening. I'll try and get back on audio probably tomorrow. Let's have a great day. Rock and roll.